This panel here is on the topic of precision medicine. And the reason why we took this little trip down the memory lane of an era before GPS navigation was just to anchor us all in precision decision-making that we can all relate to. Yes, nowadays we might all want to turn off our GPS if we're taking a nice Sunday stroll on the countryside, trying to look at the beautiful landscapes. But if we want to get to a destination on time for an important appointment, I think we all want to keep that GPS on. And when it comes to making life-saving decisions about our own health, I would at least want to keep that GPS on. I don't know about you. And that's what we're here to talk about today. So my name is Madeleine Thun. I lead AstraZeneca's global network of health innovation hubs called a Catalyst. But with me today to delve into this topic on precision care and innovation and technology driving precision care, I have Ross Muken with me. He's the president of Sophia Genetics, a pioneer in AI healthcare technology and a leader in data-driven medicine, where Ross leads the go-to-market strategy and the day-to-day operations. We have Amanda Remorino. Amanda is the Director of Digital Precision Oncology at AstraZeneca, based here in AstraZeneca's global hub. Beautiful location to be based, where she applies advanced modeling and machine learning to drive progress in precision care to transform cancer care and cancer treatment. Last but not least, we have Ignacio Sarasua. Ignacio leads NVIDIA's AI Technology Center for Iberia, while also contributing to AI application for mental health. And his PhD was at the Ludwig Maximilian University, where he focused on deep learning for Alzheimer's diagnosis. A warm welcome and maybe an applause for our, yes, there we go. I'd like to start this off by asking you, Ross, could you maybe give us a more proper definition of precision care than what I just did? So what is precision care and how does it compare to traditional care models?
That's a good question to start on. So first, if you think about what a traditional care model looks like in healthcare, every patient is essentially treated like an N of one. You come to your doctor, the doctor diagnoses you, it's based on their own personal experience, their own kind of exposure of what patients they've seen before, and it's very individualized, but also quite limited by what that clinician has seen, right? And the access to very limited sets of data, because even if you've been seeing a radiologist or others, that data lives in silo and really doesn't inform the clinician's decision. And so it's a bit of trial and error. And unfortunately, in some cases, things go wrong and misdiagnoses happen, or with best efforts, you're put on a therapy, but it doesn't work. And in other cases, based on their historical experience, you get it right. So the world of precision care is much more, in our minds, around using data and using the collective intelligence of clinicians all over the world to inform on the right drug for the right patient at the right time, so that you get, on a longitudinal basis, updates around that patient, and you can continue to change the treatment based on that individual, and that you all ultimately benefit from the collective knowledge of all clinicians for that state, as opposed to the singular of that doctor you see. So no matter where you are geographically, you can receive the best care. That, to me, ultimately will yield better outcomes for patients.
You said something beautiful when we spoke before. You said the patient of today benefits from the struggles that the patient of yesterday had. And
yes.
Likewise tomorrow. Beautiful. Amanda, I'd like to turn to you. What would you say are the obvious and maybe also less obvious gains of precision care?
Thanks, Madeleine. So, seconding Ross. So precision medicine, it's a shift from the one-size-fits-all approach, right? I mean, it's about designing treatments that would maximize the outcomes of a specific patient or a specific patient subgroup. So instead of treating every patient with the same condition the same, we move to an approach in which we really maximize the outcomes for each patient. So you can think about it like this. Imagine you have two patients with the same cancer type, but whose tumors behave very differently, right? I mean, with precision medicine, we are studying the unique biology of these tumors and designing the drug that best works for each of them. So then going back to your question, right, I mean, the obvious gain is improve outcomes for each of these two patients. They would have the best outcomes they can get. That's the main obvious gain. Another important gain is reduced toxicities. So like by preventing these patients to be exposed to non-efficient or not so efficient treatments, right, we avoid exposing them to their associated side effects as well. And I'd say maybe less obvious gain would be an improvement or an optimization in the way we develop drugs, right? I mean, so by optimizing clinical trials, because we exploit this deep understanding of the unique biology from precision medicine, we really create the best trials we can, and as a consequence, reduce trial and error. That is also, I mean, in the interest of innovation, right?
Thank you, Amanda. Ignacio, you work for NVIDIA. Yes, you do. What does precision care represent for you, and why it is important for NVIDIA?
Thank you so much, and thank you all for coming. I would say it represents a challenge, but at the same time an opportunity. And as well, I think like every challenge can represent opportunities, of course. In this case, we will have as challenges, as my co-panelists were saying, we are able to tailor medicine towards each patient, but for that we need a lot of data, right? We need to study, and we need to be able to create models and so on. All that data, it's not free, as in it's not like just available just for you to take it and use it. We need to, like that data belongs to patients, to like real human beings that have their own privacy and so on. So as such, we need to make sure that that remains this way, right? Also, that data can come from so many sources. It can come from hospitals that have different protocols than others, because even in the same city, you don't even need to go within countries or things like this. So this is definitely a huge challenge for us. Also, it's a lot of data, a lot of models, a lot of basically compute that you need, right? And access to that compute. But of course, as I was saying, almost every challenge brings this opportunity, right? And we see in like challenging conditions, we innovate. So it's an opportunity for us to innovate, to come up with new products, to listen to the community and bring things that they need. So if there's a new model that everybody wants to use, try to make it more accessible for people. Try to collaborate more with hospitals and so on. Understanding what are the privacy needs we need to meet and so on. So it's always this feeling between identifying the challenge, but always sees it as an opportunity every time we identify it.
Yeah, and we're going to come back to a bit more about the groundbreaking technologies that we see in this field, but I want to come back to you, Amanda, because you mentioned precision medicine, and we're talking about precision care here, so we might need a clarification here. What is the difference between precision medicine and precision care?
Yeah, thanks, Madeline. That's indeed a great question, because previously we mostly addressed precision medicine, or at least I did, and precision medicine is basically the scientific approach of designing drugs to tailor and optimize outcomes for a specific patient, right? It's really about drug discovery, drug development, clinical trials, to address and optimize a specific disease subtype. However, precision care, right, is about delivering these highly targeted therapies in real life to the right patient in the clinical setting, so that patients can actually benefit, right, from what science has to offer. Otherwise, that's the actual purpose, right? So if you allow me to give a little bit more granularity, what it implies is transforming the care pathway, right, into this precision framework, which is actually quite challenging. If we think of the pathway as a form of diagnosis, testing, screening, diagnosis, testing, and treatment decision, in the context of precision care, this means a series of very complex decisions, right? I mean, that imply a lot of variables, a lot of data. And if you ask me, I think that we are in a unique moment in which technology is really there to support precision care and to make precision care actionable and impactful in real life. Because those decisions can be very challenging for physicians and for the healthcare system.
Very, very true. And we're going to come back to obstacles later on as well. But Ross, when you and I spoke earlier, you mentioned the challenges of realizing the value that exists in precision medicine to actually get to true precision care. Like, what are those challenges and how do we close that gap?
Sure. So I would say, first and foremost, you have to understand about 30% of the world's data sits in healthcare, right? It's a massive, massive trove of data, but it's siloed, it's on-premise, it's dirty, it's poorly structured, there's no common ontology. And I'm not even talking about country to country or region to region. Even here in Barcelona, you go to Belviche or Val d'Hebron, all different, right? And so it's an incredible challenge to then think about creating an LLM or agentic AI or other approaches that require very well-structured data to learn from. And so in that, I would say, first, we need to get to how do we curate this data in a way that it can be used at scale. And then secondarily, clinicians or doctors really want things that they can understand. So I talk about biological explainability. So it's great to have a model, but if the doctor doesn't know what it means or why the answer was as such, no one will use it, right? And so you have a lot of challenges around data and data production and data compute, but you also have challenges around behavioral aspects. And so some, I would say, conglomeration of players needs to come together in a way to build an ecosystem that can push this forward, because there's no player. I mean, these are, we've got the greatest oncology drug discovery, drug development company in the world in AstraZeneca, the #1 AI player. There's plenty of others here at this conference. No one on their own can solve this problem. We have to get together. We have to partner, whether it's regionally, nationally, et cetera, and take on big problems. You look at areas like lung cancer where there's high death, or breast cancer where there's a lot of rare diseases. These are areas where data can absolutely transform that move to precision care, but without all of us coming together, it's not going to happen.
No, and as you said, technology is such an important driver for this. Turning to you, Ignacio, what would you say are the most groundbreaking and paradigm-shifting innovations that has taken place, and what are they, and what makes them groundbreaking and paradigm-shifting in this field?
Yeah, that's a loaded question, because I'm pretty sure everybody from different industries would disagree, of course, right? Everybody thinks their own innovation is the groundbreaking one. So as Madeleine was saying earlier, I come from a healthcare or AI for healthcare background. And I've been doing this for 10, 15 years. I've been working on this field. And I've been able to see the evolution. So the first thing I definitely see, because what I was working on, is the innovation within the realm of medical imaging. So now, not only we can, we all know, right? We all have seen this in the news now, how AI can detect breast cancer and things like this, which is great, it's amazing, and it's much faster, makes radiologists' job much easier, because sometimes you don't have a radiology next to you. Sometimes you're in an emergency, you need to know if that person has an internal bleeding, and you don't have a radiologist that can say it at the moment, right? However, some people don't realize that also those scanners have got much, much faster because of AI, because of how you process the data coming from those scanners. So, because obviously the MRI doesn't give you an image right away, right? There's a lot of things that you have to do from those magnetic fields to get into an image. So that's definitely a huge groundbreaking. Then, of course, the elephant in the room, because of Nobel Prize and so on, will be drug discovery, right? That's been also a huge thing, or protein prediction with AlphaFold and so on. We have also the fact that now we can analyze many different sources of data, as Ross also was saying, which has impacts in two different parts, right? We have, in one side, this whole multi-omics that we call, right? So proteomics, metabolomics, and things like this, right? Where you have different sources of information that you can combine to understand better a particular disease or how a patient is evolving, right? However, we also can apply that to something that we can actually understand better, right? We also have wearables, different image techniques. So you have also this multimodal monitoring of patients, which is also increased a lot the fact that we can predict somebody having a stroke before they have a stroke, and many other things. So particularly for our elder, this is a great thing, right? We also don't talk that much about the fact that, as we were saying, we need to collaborate. As Ross was saying, we need to collaborate. For that collaboration to happen, we need to have systems in place that we can just put our data together, our compute together. And that's where federated learning comes into play. And it's something that you don't hear much somehow. It's not such a buzzword, but it's very important. Federated learning is the future of, I think, European collaboration for sure. And of course, things that are just the day-to-day operations that we are benefiting, from ChatGPT and all these models. we benefit, right? Because we ask them to, I don't know, write our emails. I think there's going to be a huge impact on like day-to-day of like doctors and being able to be more precise, because you will have time to focus on the things that matter and just leave all that stuff that nobody wants to do, leave it to the machines. I think that would be mostly like, probably like 10 of them, but I think those are like the top of my head.
Thank you so much. And you mentioned AlphaFold quickly, and Amanda, previous conversation that you and I had, you also touched on AlphaFold. Can you explain to the audience a little bit what AlphaFold is shortly and why it is so important?
Yeah, thanks, Madeline. So indeed, AlphaFold is a groundbreaking advancement in drug target discovery, right? I mean, and from the prism of precision medicine, what it promises to me is to really allow drug discovery, precision medicine, and precision care converge, right? I mean, so AlphaFold plus all the other multimodality, wearables, all the other technologies that we mentioned, right, could really make that happen. So going back to AlphaFold, what we could imagine a future in which we would be predicting, right, structures of proteins with AlphaFold, docking different drugs to generate drug candidates, testing their efficacy in vitro with other groundbreaking technologies such as organoids or organs in a chip, which are great for mimicking these tumor specificities, right, that are crucial for precision medicine, right? And we could be using all of these other algorithms that we are trying to build in precision care to predict the response of a treatment in real life, to really be able to input early on in drug discovery at least estimations on how is this drug going to work in the real world, right? I mean, and this is really transformative, because we would be really able to have early on these ideas on how the drug is going to perform in the real world. That is actually what matters, right? I mean, so yes, so really to me it's about breaking the silos between drug discovery, precision medicine, and precision care with technology.
Extremely important points you're making. Ross, you mentioned 2 hospitals before here, but as the president of Sophia Genetics, you enable precision care together with care providers. In your opinion, what is it that has made precision care possible now that wasn't possible 10 years ago or so?
Sure. So I think, one, as you were speaking about, our understanding of disease has grown quite a lot, right? So again, I talked about breast cancer before. It's not a singular term. Breast cancer means many things to many different women or men, dependent on the type it is. So there's a lot more specifications to our understanding about specific diseases that underlie cancer. Then companies like yourself at Astra and others have developed tons of new therapies. So the combinations of treatment has gotten increasingly more complex. And so in that, the desire to then better get to a precision treatment for that patient has grown. And so I think ultimately that has sort of pushed the space forward. Then you have folks in AI and cloud that have also put forth a lot of the technology that allows some of this to happen. And so now, all of a sudden, we can start to better understand and predict response and use, again, as you said before, the patient data of today to inform on the patients of tomorrow, so that we can get that flywheel spinning and really build collective intelligence. And so really what we're driving to is, again, someone here in Barcelona, a clinician at Vall d'Hebron, can help inform a clinician at MD Anderson in Texas, who can help inform a clinician at Memorial Sloan Kettering in New York, but can also help people in rural India and Guatemala and Nigeria, right? And that collective intelligence can be shared through a federated model. And in that, in the end, now you start to really advance disease at parity all over the world. And that, to me, is, I think, something we should all be able to rally around.
Yep, true. And listening to this, at least for me, it's hard to not agree that precision care is the superior model, but it is far from the norm in most healthcare systems. There are obstacles and hurdles. So Amanda, what are the major hurdles for precision care to reach and truly benefit patients at scale?
Yeah, so I think Ross really went through most of them and the previous sessions as well, right? I mean, we discussed a lot about data fragmentation, interoperability. I think this is the major challenge. I mean, to be able to, for precision care to be real, right, we need to have, at a single point in time, all the data of a single patient. And that is we are far today of achieving that. Data is siloed across different institutions, even within a same institution. So that's definitely the number one challenge. The second challenge, if we think of these tools, AI tools, I mean, to support precision care, but not even necessarily AI tools, any framework, guidelines, etc. One other challenge would be the integration into the clinical practice, right? I mean, we need to either create a software or a tool that would enter seamlessly in the physician's workflow, right? I mean, so that it actually represents a help and a support and not increased complexity. And that's tough. I mean, these tools have to be connected with electronic medical records. They have to be introduced into the software that the physician is using, and this is difficult. And I'd say that maybe the last challenge that is sort of inherent to precision care is that by definition, it's not generalizable, right? I mean, and we touched upon on the other sessions about bias, right? I mean, so if you need to develop specific models for these very precise populations, right, it's a lot of work because you have to create one model for each. And you have to make sure that you're doing it in a representative way, right? I mean, that you're taking into account every subgroup in your population. I mean, so that you don't have this negative bias that is the opposite to what precision care wants to achieve, right? I mean, so I'd say those are the three main challenges, and I totally agree that the only way to solve it is via collaboration. I mean, with the pharmaceutical industry, the technology, the tech industry, governments, ministries of health, regulatory agencies, and the healthcare system. So it's really a common effort.
So it's a balance as well then on the size of the cohorts and when it's valuable health economically to do so. Ross, when we talked before, you alluded as well that there's an element of human error into the hurdles for precision care. Can you care to expand on that a little bit?
I mean, the reality is clinicians, right? It's hard to change behavior, and you know, for them, they both need to understand, you know, biologically what a model or what AI or what intelligence is going to be suggesting to them, right? And they have to then know that as they take treatment decisions that ultimately are influenced by something, that they then know why they are taking the decision and what the likely outcome is based on that, and be able to iterate. And changing that clinician behavior is going to be quite challenging. It's even hard to get communication across different types of doctors within one institution, right? So you might have your normal doctor, your family doctor, again, in the case of cancer, your oncologist, a pathologist in the lab, a radiologist looking at the images. Just getting these people to speak to one another within one institution is a challenge, and then getting them all to share their learnings across that in a common model will be a challenge. So as we start thinking about putting that on a national level or working with governments on regional levels or on an international level, you know, this is quite a complex thing to tackle, but that's, again, to the point we keep coming back to, why as an industry we have to rally together and push this all forward in a meaningful way.
I would say in most industries, it's the human beings and the human constructs that keep us back. Yes. Technology is always faster than when we are. Amanda, will these advancements benefit all patients? Will precision care improve or maybe worsen health equity? What are the opportunities and the risks here?
So great point, and I'd go back to the bias issue, right? I mean, so like the bias represents a risk, like that would have a negative impact on health equity. So, but that can be addressed definitely. So, like provided that is addressed, right? I mean, I think that the technology, I mean, these technologies and precision care, actually have the opportunity to really have a positive impact on health equity. Like going back to the democratization, right, of expertise. I mean, if we think as these algorithms as means to bring this clinical expertise that lies in academic centers virtually available to everyone, right? I mean, this is a huge improvement of health equity, right? Every physician can have the expertise at their fingertips. And another important health equity advantage of precision care would be, from the healthcare system perspective, right? I mean, the optimal resource allocation. So making sure that healthcare systems are really giving the best treatment to the patient that benefit most, and really optimizing the resources. So I think these are the two main opportunities for health equity.
Ross, would you like to build on that and also kind of focus on how do we make sure we increase health equity with precision care and not the other way around?
Sure. I think on this, to me, of any topic here at this conference, it's one of the most important to all of us. Why? Because amongst humans, what's common? We all want to live, right? And whether it's, you know, a spouse or partner or parent or friend, et cetera, or child, we will likely know someone in our lifetime influenced either by cancer or a rare disease, at least in the world that we look at. And so what you want for them is to get the best care possible. And the way to do that is through much of what we've been talking about today, right? And again, I would like to think altruistically, not just for those that we know, but for others in the world. We should want them to be able to get the best care as well, no matter what, you know, country they were born in and where they live today, right? And so we talk about this all the time. We partner with some of the top cancer centers in the world and some of the top cancer companies, but you should be able to be born anywhere and still get that right access and still be able to live for diseases that we know are treatable and where we can find the right drug for that patient.
It's easy to say, it's less easy to do sometimes, yes. So yeah. But Ignacio, is access to technology a limiting factor in driving health equity?
100%. Like, I would be lying and we don't want that if I would say like, no, it's actually not a limiting factor. While I was saying earlier, right, challenges also brings innovation and so on, we cannot obviate the fact that most of these big models that we talk about come from where they come from, right? Like from countries that can afford to have like big data centers where they train these models. So this is something we need to acknowledge so we can avoid having bias towards like those systems, right? Now, one thing is true is we are also innovating a lot on making those algorithms be cheaper and being able to run in smaller systems. Actually, I was just listening today on a podcast saying how now the cost of running most of those models has dropped by 95%. So of course that makes much more accessible, as Ross was saying, to be able to be run in other areas. Also, we are able to bring all this big models knowledge into very small places. So basically, all of a sudden, everybody can almost run these models in almost edge devices. So I think that's a key point. Yeah, it's a challenge. Yes, actually can increase the gap, but we need to focus on like making that gap smaller and make it more accessible for people.
We are running out of time, but for that reason, I want you to, Ignacio, Amanda, Ross, just what would you like to see in the next coming years in precision medicine and precision care?
I would like to see less error, like almost 0% error, thanks to having an AI assistant that focuses on things that the doctor cannot focus on that moment. I would like to see a lot of diseases that are like deadly right now disappear because of our drug discovery efforts. And definitely, I'm actually bringing back something that came on the previous panel about mental health. I would like to see a more holistic approach, thanks to AI, between mental and physical health, which is not the case in most societies right now, I would say. That's my end statement, I would say.
Thank you. Amanda?
So I'd go back to the convergence of drug discovery, precision medicine, and precision care, and being able to introduce as early as possible estimations on how the drug is going to perform in real life at the moment of drug discovery and go, no-go decisions. Yeah.
Thank you. 10 seconds, Ross.
I'd love to see a number of leading companies like ours get together and make a difference in one of these areas and push it forward, because I think governments would like to. I think it's going to be too slow moving. I think we have to be more disruptive, and we have to aim big and do something impactful.
Beautiful words. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you.
And thank you to panel.